just to get us started here, we all have beliefs, values, goals, missions, just different things that guide us through life. And many of those are very conscious, and others that are formed by our experiences are often unconscious. And so as a situation or an event might happen, whether it's something personal, something at work, something while you're driving to work, well, something happens, those experiences kind of inform how you're going to react, right? So whatever you've experienced before or whatever you might believe, it's going to inform your reaction. And what we're here today to talk about are the reactions that bring us stress, right? And so we want to take a look at that kind of a relationship. And so as we're looking at this, what we want to do is really pay attention to those reactions so that we can pause. And then when we pause, we are then able to provide a response that's more aligned with our intentions and more, aligned with what we might want to do. As we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's life, I just want to share something he closed one of his speeches with. And actually it was his Nobel Peace Prize speech. At the end, he talked about peace as being more precious than that of diamonds or silver or gold. And I have to say that I just fully agree with that. And as we think about what we can get out of today, it isn't everything in my life that feels stressful is going to go away. It is that when things come up in my life that are causing me stress, I will have tools and ways to keep myself more peaceful. Okay, so that's our intended outcome, and I'm looking for some of the practices that will bring you that peace and that joy. So let's go ahead and dig in. So healthy thinking is what we were calling today, and it really starts with understanding the hold and the effect that our limiting beliefs have on us. And limiting beliefs, if you haven't used that term before, is just a statement about reality that you hold as true. And it could be something simple, it could be something very complex, and often we don't even know that we hold those. I'll just give you a very simple example from my life. We were downsizing, moving, getting rid of things. I had a real hard time of letting go of anything. I grew up on a farm and we were poor when I grew up. And so we recycled, we reused, we didn't get rid of anything. And what I didn't realize is I was holding on to a belief that you had to keep things. It was almost a sin to say to get rid of things because you might need it again. And so it's, that is that harming me today? Not necessarily, but it is something that I had to discover when I had a hard time of letting go of things. So that's a limiting belief. It's just something that it's a statement about reality that I held as true. And once I started examining it, I have an opportunity to overcome it. And that's really where we want to go today. Okay. So the story that I tell myself today, and that's what really limiting beliefs are. They're a combination of stories and unconscious beliefs that hold us back. They really hold us back from becoming who we're meant to be, and they limit us from living our best life. So again, they're typically from childhood, subtle experiences from our upbringing. Our young brains gave meaning to the whole world around us, and things and people, including sometimes especially our parents and teachers. They would say to things, little statements like, you need to study if you ever want to be successful, or you need to study more, or no one's ever going to want to marry you unless you, fill in the blanks there, or you have to work hard if you want to support the family, or good isn't good enough, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard any statement like that or something similar, but while some statements are sometimes motivating, how you gave meaning to them at the time may still influence your actions and reactions today. So, because what often happens is that our beliefs become integrated with our identity, and they limit us when we stop being curious or we stop noticing. So, we may, we may live in judgment of ourselves or other people, and not even recognize why. So if you just take a moment right now and think, what might come up for you along the way? What story might be buried underneath some of the things that you think or some of the things that you do? Because, we all have stories. And sometimes that's, what we do in the middle of the night. We wake up and our stories are from that day are going through our head, or our stories for the next day. And they go around, like cats and dogs chasing them, right? They don't stop sometimes, but it's our story. And after we think about the story, that's when we have time to kind of draw attention to them so that we can transition away from them. Okay. So how does this relate to stress? So, up until now, which means this moment, right? We each see the world through our own unique set of filters. Those upbringings, those experiences, our environment, our mindset, they all play a role in how we attach meaning to everything around us. Whether you're tall or short, or, from this country, from another country, we experience them differently. So the same thing can mean something different to two different people. Our personalities can cause us to think about things differently. So it's really important to kind of look at how we react. So, just say when you were young, you didn't get a lot of attention. You were a fairly good kid, but you just didn't get a lot of attention in your household. Maybe you were one of 10 children, and you came home from school one day with an A+. And you were praised for being such a good girl or boy. And now you begin to associate achievement with having worth, of having worthwhile, that someone's going to pay attention to you, right? So several years later, you're in middle school and you're on social media, and no one is noticing you. So what are you doing? You're sad or you're depressed because you're now equating your personal worth to somebody paying attention to you. So years later, you're unhappy with your job because you have a supervisor who never gives you any feedback. So you work hard and you're stressed as you try to do something to get recognition that will make you feel worthwhile. And it's all this unconscious energy that is going on, and that we need to fulfill this need. And often that's what's unnecessary, and that's what can cause worry and undue stress. So, if you think about a beach ball, right? And think about your need for being perfect, or your need for feedback, or your need for whatever it is that is yours. Think about that as your beach ball. And you're holding it underwater, right? Because when you're holding it underwater, you can achieve something. And so think about all the time wanting that kind of a reaction. It's like holding that beach ball underwater. And so the stress it causes, because it keeps you from doing other things, because you're holding onto that so tight. So, that it's an example that you might need to think about a little bit. And as we go through some of the other things, just think about, what are you holding on to and pushing down under the surface so much that it's taking your energy, right? And it's taking you away from things that you might want to have time for. And so as you see life messages being formed, you can see how they might govern us and kind of govern some of our emotional responses as well. So 3 keys that we're going to talk about for how to really work with this and transform away from that. And it's like, how do we notice that our limiting beliefs might stop us from taking action that would bring us the most peace or the most joy or even results. And so 3 keys that we want to take a look at today are going to be, let's recognize, become aware of the unconscious, the unspoken, the unrecognized limiting beliefs that inhibit us, and then identify what is that we're associating with that. And then once we can do that, then we can reframe our story. And as we reframe the story, I know you've been through a few different mental health webinars, but as we talk about reframing the story, we're really talking about creating new neural connections in our brain so that we can go from A to B to C and start to skip B. So as we look at the drawings in the beginning, where we go to our stress reaction, but as we practice, we can go to our peaceful response. Our goal here is to go from recognizing and identifying to reframing to get to the point where we go straight to the peaceful response, right? And it won't always happen because we're human, but it's a good long-term goal for all of us. Okay. So let's talk about, just recognizing, you want to just look at, notice when things show up for us. It's, as you go through your day, just start to notice. You might already say things like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed today, or oh, I got this deadline, or I can't believe. Just start to notice those kinds of things. Anything that may cause a pit in your stomach or your shoulders to tighten. Pay attention to all 4 domains: mind, body, heart, and spirit. So what are you thinking? What's showing up in your body? How are you feeling? Where's your energy level? Just start to notice. And as you notice, we'll take it further, but it's the most important thing of today is like, what clues are you getting? And what are you noticing? And then if you notice it, just kind of say, this has happened to me before. It's like every time I have to speak in a meeting, I notice my stomach clenching, I get all stressed. Okay, just notice it, recall it, pay attention to it. And as you're doing that, the next part of this recognition is just, what is the meaning that I'm giving to this? I'm feeling stressed, but what am I stressed about? What's this meaning? I'm going into this meeting, and am I giving it the meaning that I won't get promoted? Am I giving it the meaning that people will think poorly of me? Am I giving it a meaning of I always make mistakes? So it's really about starting to recognize what's the meaning that I am giving this situation when I notice stress showing up. And we'll talk about this, but I want to be really clear that some situations are really challenging and they do require a lot of you. And we might even use the terminology, wow, that's such a stressful situation you were in. Oh my goodness, how did you get through it? But I want you to start noticing that too, because when you use that terminology, if it was a stressful situation, we are already telling our brains it was stressful. What we want to start to think about is it was a challenging situation. Now, did it cause stress within me? And now, did I give it the meaning that had it caused stress, or is there an opportunity for me to have responded different? Okay, does that make sense for everyone? I can see a few heads nod, shake. So as we're going through. So we have just, recognized, and now it is kind of digging a little bit deeper and looking at I'm seeing these patterns. So I'm reviewing some of the things that I've recognized. What are the patterns? What must I believe that I'm doing that? Do I believe I don't deserve? Do I believe I'm not important? So just kind of dig in a little bit and think about that. So, say you got an email and I don't know, some of you may be in the processing area, closing area, background, IT. I know you're all in different positions, but let's just say that, you're trying to get a loan closed and you got an email from the title company saying, hey, can we talk this afternoon? And your mind immediately goes to, oh my goodness, something's wrong. I made a mistake. It's not going to close. Your mind immediately goes to that. And then what happens? You get stressed, right? You're immediately stressed because that's where your mind goes. So as you're recognizing those things, that's where we want to stop and then recognize. Okay. And as you got it, then it's time to start to identify and say, what is that I am thinking that's making me have all these negative thoughts when they didn't give any context to what's going on? Am I afraid to make mistakes? Do I need everything to be perfect? So you just kind of start to name it. And I'll give you some examples here. There are hundreds and hundreds of different ways that we can articulate limiting beliefs. And here's just a list, and you can hold some of them to be true, but as you look at them, like, I have to be busy. That was one of my limiting beliefs. Absolutely. We always had to be busy. We always had to be doing something. And so even in my semi-retired state that I am now in, I still have to be busy. But the thing is it is no longer an unconscious belief for me. It is now a conscious belief, so I can address it. So you see how starting to identify these doesn't mean you change it right away. It's just that you want to focus on any of those that are causing you stress, right?
Shirley, this resonates so much. I'm just because my mom, when she comes to visit, she is constantly moving around my house. And I'm just like, Mom, just sit down, like, relax. And I think she was brought up this way, but then I also was brought up this way, is that like, there was never allowed any sort of just lounging around. Like, you were just like, I just want to lay on the couch for an hour, or I don't really have anything to do today, and that's okay. And she said, well, that's how her mom raised her. Like, if there was nothing to do, then it was like, go outside, go do this. And so we talked about it once, where it was like, we have this sense of guilt when we're not doing anything. And it's crazy because I really do feel like super guilty taking any time just to not do, like, just not do anything. And so, I'm just not going to do anything today because I just don't want to. And there's like a massive amount of guilt with that. Like, you can't even enjoy it. And I know that my mom is the same way. And she said it's because that's how my grandmother was with her, but it's filtered down to me because that's also how she was with me. Yeah. And my sister. So yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah. And if you Google limiting beliefs, you can come up with lists and pages of so many things that I would just suggest kind of read through them and see if anything shows up for you. And not all of them are necessarily bad, but it helps explain some of your actions and reactions. And again, if you're seeing stress a lot to certain things, it's a great way to start to, start to dig into some of those things. I had a woman call me. She wanted some career coaching a few months back. And she was convinced that she wasn't being a good leader. She wanted to get promoted. She needed some help. And she just wasn't enjoying her job. And there were just all these things in our initial conversation. And as we started to go through some sessions and talk, we really dug into some of her belief system was what she had to be. It was so much around what she had to be that she couldn't enjoy what she was. So she wasn't enjoying her job. She thought she had to go to the next level. All these things that were just causing so much stress in her life that once we started peeling back the layers, she just started like laughing on her, like being happy because she was like letting all this stress go. And so, this identification process and then trying to name it is an important part of going through this. But I also want to say to you, if you've ever taken a yoga class or gone to the gym and had some instructor that, they would always say to you, do what you're comfortable with, or here's a modification, or letting you kind of, instead of doing jumping jacks, just step in place, or different things like that. When you're working with your mind, it's very similar. Do what is comfortable for you. Don't feel you have to go digging in and trying to see what happened in your childhood that made you think this. That's a lot of work, and it might not be where you are right now. So just, take the steps that fit for you as you're looking at these limiting beliefs. So after you kind of can name it, I recommend this always is keep a journal of some sort, whether it's on your phone, on your computer, in a notebook, whatever. Just at the end of the day, or when you have time, just go, I noticed I was really stressed when this, and nothing came of it. I don't really even know why, and sometimes just write those things down. It really helps you put patterns together, and it can really help you learn a lot about yourself. So as you do journal and you're doing that, then you can also start to look at what meaning did I give that situation? When I got called into the office today, what meaning did I give it? I had when my youngest son was young and I'd call his name, I have a very soft voice. And so we had kind of a balcony where the bedrooms were upstairs, and I'd call his name. First thing he'd do is he'd come and he'd yell downstairs, "Am I in trouble?" Because when I would yell his name, like his initial belief was someone is yelling, but he was noticing it and coming and clearing it up so he didn't have to be stressed as he was coming down the stairs. And so that's a little example of what we can start to do so that we can go, wait a minute, I don't need to be stressed right now. Okay. And then, and when you're ready to give these things some thought, just kind of assess what's going on. Are you holding back or carrying additional stress because you think you have to be perfect or something else? Or as you look at some of the stress situations, are you okay with it? I mean, are those, you like, that was really legitimate. That stress motivated me to meet a deadline. I mean, just being really mindful about the limiting beliefs, so that you can be intentional and start to choose of what you want to do. And as I said too, this is layering. This is like an onion. You see something and you peel back that layer, then you might see something else. This is taking time to get there. Not something we're going to do in this webinar. It's something that you can choose to do over time to get to that point. And as I said, limiting beliefs don't always harm you. So, it's just identify and assess them so that you can consciously choose how you want to respond to the situation, and not just react to it. Okay. All right. So we've just really now done the tough work, which is the noticing, like being honest with ourselves, trying to identify and name what belief might be there. Sometimes even thinking about where it might have come from. So to make a difference, we really want to just kind of reframe a situation. And we'll start with just setting an intention. What is it that you want to do now? My intention might be I just want to notice for right now. Okay. That might be all it is I just want to start to notice what's causing me stress. Instead of always thinking I'm stressed or carrying this weight, or sometimes even being sad about something, I just want to notice what it is. And I'm going to start writing it down. And you don't have to dig any deeper. Or set an intention, say, you know what, over the next 30 days, I'm going to notice and I'm going to write it down, and then I'm going to see where that takes me. So an intention can be very individual. It's really up to you to set it, and it's up to you to adjust it, just like any kind of a goal. And so, as you notice, and then you set an intention, just look at, what are the tools that can help you? And I use the word tools. Some people call them, little push-ups, just little things that will click in your brain, that will help you break from one situation to another, will help you put a gap in those neural connectors that are there so that you start to form a new one and you start to detour in your brain. So I would just say right now, while we're sitting here, everyone, I want you just to kind of, if you're not multitasking, and certainly if you're not driving and listening, just, put one hand on your belly and one hand over your heart. And just take a deep breath in. And let it out. And as you're letting it out, just notice, did my stomach go in and out, or did my chest go in and out? How did that breath land on me? And that's it for right now, right? That's just a tool of taking a breath in the middle of something and disconnecting, just pausing without having to do any more work in the moment. So if a situation seems stressful, take a breath. And in and of itself, the breath isn't going to change anything, but it gives you that moment, right? It gives you that moment to think, what's going on with me? It gives you that moment to be curious, okay? It gives you that moment to kind of look through the meaning. So tools are just a really important part of all of this. And the next part is just to do the homework. What homework do you need to do? And so I'm going to give you a couple tools that you can take with you. The first is what I call the line of awareness and choice. And as you see, first, we have to be aware. We have to be willing to be aware. And that's where everything starts. And we can set an intention, and we can take a look at things, and we can assess. So, just kind of call that line of awareness your equilibrium, your place of normalcy, right? So beyond that, then we go into below the line. What does below the line look like? Stress, worry, negative talk, panic at reactions. A lot of our stress is caused by fear and even shame. So think about that as you kind of go through this. And again, as I said earlier, not all stress is bad. So just notice that too. But then if you do notice you're in that situation, bring yourself to your line, right? Your awareness. Just bring yourself to that. So it's almost like you are watching yourself, right? Instead of saying, I'm so stressed, or just say, I notice that I am having a stress reaction. Just something very simple in the way that you're shifting while you're going back up to the line. And then from the line, look at what are the tools or the things you can do that bring acceptance and calm. Pauses, we just talked about, breaths, just inner observation, like I notice my shoulders are tight, I'm going to move them. Curiosity is huge, because you can take a situation and just say, is this really true? How do I know that for sure? What has my experience shown me? And just asking questions. What if the opposite were true? So curiosity is a great thing to help you stay or get above the line. And just conscious choices in your language. We talked a little bit about how you take something from I'm so stressed to I notice that I have stress. You are retraining your brain when you do that. At the same time, you're kind of bringing it down a little bit. And then, of course, presence and learning, just new habits, starting to create a new habit of a pause. And I'll give you another pause. You can just put your thumb and your forefinger together for just a few seconds and just try to notice the ripples, or from your finger on your thumb and from your thumb on your finger. Just notice that. Let's that take 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Again, a new habit, a way to break going straight to that reaction of stress. I did this slide in December, so it may look familiar to some of you, but it's also huge in just paying attention to these things. What do I control? What do I influence? And what is out of my control? Because when you shift to what do I control in this situation, your personal sense of agency is activated. And when that is activated, you gain the sense that you can make something happen. So even if the situation that you're dealing with is incredibly challenging, and you're feeling stressed because of that, go to the question, what can I control? Because this is just out of my control right now. So what is it that I can control? And often that control is the meaning that you're giving a situation. If we're going back to, I don't know, let's just say that in that Ruthie example, let's just say her worst fear is true, that she made a mistake, the loan's not going to close, right? She can no longer control that, right? But what she can control upon hearing this is to recognize that it's now her opportunity to eliminate stress and move into action. That's in her control. The situation's not a good one, but what thoughts can she bring in that are in her control? Like, she's done this before, she's gotten through it, just kind of thinking about that a little bit. And, if you are chatting with each other, just feel free to kind of chat about what's in your control that can help you move through something. What thoughts can you control that can help you move out of a stressful environment, situation, into it's tough, but I can situation. And here's another thing I think about is just changing the language, and then you'll change your story. The 2 words I am are so powerful to your brain. So powerful, because they are basically telling your brain what you are and what you are doing. So when you say, I am tired, or I am overwhelmed, or I am stressed, you are reinforcing that. So even though you may want to articulate those feelings and emotions, change the language. Language is critical to mental health. It's like, instead of tired, I'm in need of sleep. Instead of I'm not prepared, I am going to find some time to prep. Find ways to change the language. And just if you walk away from this today with nothing more than do not use the words I am with something negative that follows it. Okay. And you can also, change the language from I can't, I don't, I'm not, any of those things. Just change the language. It doesn't mean you're changing the truth of the situation. You're still holding the value of what is happening with you, but you're changing the language that your brain is now taking in. And you are now able or better able to kind of shift from stress and victim to control and ownership. So again, so some of these examples you might recognize, some you might not. Another good thing to do is when you say something and then you noticed you said something that was pretty tough or bad on yourself, just say, add the word at the end, maybe. Okay. Like, I am so tired, maybe, because you've already said it, right? So, so again, I would love you right now just to chat with each other one I am word or one what I am phrase that is positive. Just take a quick moment and just one positive I am.
Putting it in the chat.
Yeah, just type them in, just so you take a moment for those that can type in. Like, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am smart, I am capable, I am relaxed, I am worry-free, I can handle it, I am able to handle it, just anything. And just notice as you're typing, notice the sensation that comes over your body. And that's why too, in journaling, it's just a great thing sometimes just to journal some positive affirmations, of I am. It's great for your brain. It's great for your soul. Okay. And so I just want to give some, kind of key takeaways from today as our time is running out. It's just that, limiting beliefs can elevate stress, right? Because how you believe or put meaning can add the stress. But the good news is that you can modify those beliefs and reduce your stress. And real-time awareness is just vital. It's so important that you start in the moment, just being aware. And again, even if you're not journaling, even if you're not thinking about it right now, do a quick pause practice, a breath, fingers, stand up, something that gives you 3 seconds in between what just happened and how you're reacting to it. And then the final thing is that if you really want some transformational work here to really reduce, is that just be intentional and do the work. And so I'm giving you a homework tab. So it's like anything else, as you just be intentional, make a point to check in on yourself during demanding times, like, how am I doing during this? Okay, I'm doing okay. And even when you're doing something fun, just check in. How does that feel in my body? Be intentional about noticing yourself and all 4 domains. And then I start to identify, notice the times of warrior stress so that you can start to do some of the practices that might support limiting that. When you notice, pause, whatever that practice becomes for you. Name it, use language. What might you believe in the moment? How do you get, how do you get to those words? Just look at that. Assess, use the line, how do I stay above the line? How can I phrase what I'm thinking in a way that is above the line, that keeps me in calm, that allows me to have some, reflection and doesn't bring stress or fear. So, and then, just as you're as you're assessing, be curious, ask yourself questions that help you. As I said earlier, what if the opposite were true of what I'm thinking? Use the tools to adjust your thinking and then notice your results to reinforce. So at the end of the day, if you have made an adjustment and you've gone from a real place of stress to a place of lesser stress, notice that and kind of commend yourself on that, because that goes then back into your belief system, right? Now you have a belief system that says, I can limit my stress. So that kind of work, like I said, it's like preparing for a marathon. You don't do it all at once. You start slowly and you just start layering it on as you notice. The quick fix is to notice and pause and try to change direction. But our goal here is that when your guiding principles and beliefs come up that they'll come up in a situation so that you'll go straight to the response that does bring you peace. And so that is my hope for you, is that you can eliminate some of the stress with some healthy thinking, with some understanding of what's going on, and putting some language to it. So I thank you for your time. There's my email and my phone. You are welcome to reach out with questions, or if you want some more materials or information, or just to talk through anything, feel free. I would be very happy to respond.
Thank you, Shirley. Great session. I feel calmer already. And one of the things, does everyone have that negative voice? I mean, is there anybody that is just, not dependent on how they're brought up, that doesn't have that voice? Because when you put that list up of all of those negative messages, I thought, well, geez, I tell myself, or I've heard myself say that, many of those to myself so many times. And I think recognizing those messages that you're sending yourself, because I've become more aware of that personally, like, stop saying that about yourself. Why are you being so, you're not mean like that to other people. Why are you so mean to yourself?
Well,
you don't treat people that way, but you're treating yourself this way. So
think of it as being as part of your DNA, from, our reaction to something that we fear is, the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? The fear, we do something. So if you take that down a notch, anything that we fear, fear of being rejected, fear of not being good enough, fear of whatever, it can really cause a lot of that. So not all of those are fear-based. Some are actually shame-based, because we've been shamed in our life. But they usually come from some experience or some message that we got along the way. And it could be from, it could have been from a classmate in kindergarten. I mean, you just never know when you picked something up that your brain connected with. And so the deeper work of going back and figuring out where they came from is something, like I said, don't try to do all of that in one day. And for some people, it can be painful, and you don't want to do that without maybe some additional help, a coach or a therapist, depending on what it is. So, but just know, fear is a huge motivator, and our brains are more responsive to threats than they are to rewards, far more responsive to threats than they are to rewards.
Interesting. Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who jumped on today, and to those of you that will be watching this tomorrow or later this week. We appreciate you viewing. We did set up the next session. It's going to be February 13th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I dropped the link to register in the chat. Next session is going to focus on developing a stronger self, your best self at work. This is the second of a 6-part series that Shirley has put together for us. And so if you enjoyed today, by all means, forward the registration link to your friends, to your colleagues. It's all going to be really good stuff. And she's worked really hard to tailor this to us, our members. Like she said in the beginning, she is a veteran of the mortgage industry. So not only does she know all of this amazing stuff and have all of these tools for a general population with regards to this work, she also has a very good understanding of us in the mortgage industry, as well as a specific group of people. So I am super excited and super grateful that she has agreed to do this for us. So spread the word, register for the February session. And with that, I hope that you all have a fabulous week and look forward to seeing you again next month. I will send a follow-up email with the link from this to the recording, as well as any key points. If there's any resources that Shirley has that she wants to share, all of that will be in the follow-up email for you as well. So take care, everybody, and stay happy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.